This is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. Well, we heard President Trump, of course, as always, take the right position on the big topics that are controversial in the country. And of course, I'm talking about Trump with ICE and Renee Good in Minneapolis. And he spoke out on it on Air Force One yesterday, flying back to Washington from Mar-a-Lago here in Florida. And of course, he took the side of the federal agent, because when a police officer tells you to get out of the vehicle, you don't drive off, you get out of the vehicle. Comment. Here's a first clip.
Everyone's seen it. And the woman was very violent. She's a very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Go or drive.
For absolute immunity, how would you define that?
Well, I'm going to let the people define it. But immunity, you know what immunity means as well as I do.
So that officer should be back on the force.
People can't be treating law enforcement that way, whether it's ICE or Border Patrol or our police and men and women.
That's right.
You can't do that. We have, the law enforcement in our country is doing really well, despite the fact that Sleepy Joe Biden allowed people to pour through an open border. Crime stats just came out. We have the best crime stats on
That's
record.
Right.
Despite all the criminals he allowed into our country, we've gotten a lot of them out. We have to respect our law enforcement. At a very minimum, that woman was very, very disrespectful to law enforcement. And you heard the same noises. You saw the same crunch that I saw. You can't do that with law enforcement, whether it's police or ICE or Border Patrol or anybody else.
That's exactly right. I mean, you're supposed to be able to go out there and resist police officers? This idea that liberals have in their mind that somehow you're allowed to go out there and take a position against police officers in the street. Of course, the police officers have to increase, their level of authority when you start resisting them like that, especially when you begin to drive off and hit them with your car. No, you can't just go out there and all of a sudden decide you're going to resist police officers. If you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. And the president coming out on the side of ICE is not surprising, but it needed to be done. We needed to hear it because these liberal lunatics are trying to really bring a collapse to the country. What they're trying to do right now is cause a major, major collapse. That's it. They're trying to collapse the American system. I think it's pretty obvious, don't you? Don't you? Yeah, it seems that way to me. Now, these protests are a little isolated, of course, to where, the Democrats control things like Minneapolis and Portland and such. It hasn't spread into too many mainstream cities. But they want to bring a downfall of the country. Now, I just pinned a link in the live chat. That link is to my main live stream for today, which will be in a couple of hours, and I'll be taking live calls. Here's the president again talking about Renee Good in Minneapolis.
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that. They were harassing, they were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
That's right.
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out, who's paying for it. With their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
Linus said, why 3 shots? So that's interesting. So Linus Q9E says, but why 3 shots? So what Linus is saying is that the shoot was okay. So would 1 or 2 shots been okay to you? Oh man, here's the president again commenting.
Everyone's seen it, and the woman was very violent. She's a very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Go or drive.
For absolute immunity, how would you define that?
Well, I'm going to let the people define it. But immunity, you know what immunity means as well as I do.
So that officer
But
should be back on the
people
force.
can't be treating law enforcement that way, whether it's ICE or Border Patrol or
That's right.
police and men and women. You can't do that. We have, the law enforcement in our country is doing really well, despite the fact that Sleepy Joe Biden allowed people to pour through an open border. Crime stats just came out. We have the best crime stats on record, despite all the criminals he allowed into our country. We've gotten a lot of them out. We have to respect our law enforcement. At a very minimum, that woman was very, very disrespectful to law enforcement. And you heard the same noises. You saw the same crunch that I saw. You can't do that with law enforcement, whether it's police or ICE or Border Patrol or anybody else.
Exactly. You can't go out there and disobey police commands.
Generally speaking, these people have been harassed and threatened every day. They had bands out playing so they couldn't sleep in the hotel. I see what they're doing to them. They're threatening them constantly.
That's right.
And all they're doing is doing what I got elected on. We had millions of people that came into a country that are horrible people that shouldn't be in our country. They're murderers, they're drug dealers, they're people from mental institutions, they're the criminally insane, they're people from prisons. They were allowed to come into our country because Biden was a stupid person, and the people surrounding him, very smart, very vicious, but they have no common sense, and they're radicalized people. They're radical left people, not radical right. They're radical left people. And all they're doing is what I campaigned on. I won in a landslide.
That's right.
We won all 7 swing states. We won the popular vote. We won the districts. We won everything. We won the counties. We won the counties by 79%, I believe. I campaigned on the Great Border, and now we have a Great Border. But Biden let 25 million people come into this country, and many of those people are criminals, including 11,888 murderers. We won them out, and I won on that. Now people don't talk about
Thank you for that super chat. Appreciate it.
it because the border is so secure. Nobody wants to talk about it anymore. The border was one of the reasons I won the election. I've done such a good job on it that nobody wants to talk about it anymore. The border is totally secure, and now the crime stats just came out, and they're the best numbers since they were taken, and that's like 50 years ago. We have the best crime numbers, despite the fact that a lot of criminals were allowed into our country. We have to respect our law enforcement.
Yeah, exactly. They're professional. He's right. They're professional agitators, and it's a terrible thing that happened. I'm sorry the woman lost her life. But do you think that the left are upset about it? This has given them energy, right? They have an issue, they think now. It's a losing issue, but they have an issue in their mind. I don't think the liberals are shedding too many tears, do you? If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. So it's nice to see that the president is out there. He's also coming out on the right side of everything, as always, but in Iran and in Venezuela and in Cuba. Here, President Trump, he talked to Elon Musk about giving Starlink internet to the protesters in Iran.
Are you going to send Starlink to Iran, sir, to help the people on the ground with the internet blackout for more than 72 hours?
We're talking about that. We may get the internet going, if that's possible.
Are you talking to Musk
We
about
may
it?
speak to Elon, because as you know, he's very good at that kind of thing. He's got a very good company. So we may speak to Elon Musk. And in fact, I'm going to call him as soon as I'm finished with you.
Oh, right, the report, it's funny. The reporter gave Trump an idea to help the Iranians. That's not exactly what they wanted to do, huh? And of course, the president has decided Greenland is going to become a part of the United States. That's a done deal. President Trump has decided it. Do you guys agree with that? That he, not whether or not you agree with Greenland becoming a part of the United States, but do you agree that President Trump has decided that it is going to happen? And I have no doubt in my mind. Here's the president. These are clips are from Air Force One talking about Greenland.
We don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
They can offer you either like.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
Are you okay if that compromises NATO? If NATO effectively ceases to exist?
I've done a great job. I'm the one that saved NATO. I'm the one that got them to pay 5 points, 5% of GDP. Wait a minute. It was 2%, and they didn't pay. Now they're paying 5%. I'm the one that saved NATO. You wouldn't have NATO if I weren't president.
That's right.
Would you pull the U.S. out of NATO? Would you consider doing that?
Well, maybe NATO would be upset if I did it. Maybe NATO would save a lot of money. But I like NATO. I just wonder whether or not if we needed NATO, would they be there for us?
Exactly.
I'm not sure they would. You know, we spent a lot of money on NATO, and I'm not sure they would.
But what would you say?
Now, what's happened is,
He's right.
Sleepy Joe Biden gave $350 billion to Ukraine and got nothing for it. I got rare earth back. I got, I think, value back far greater than that. And that's what he should have done. Now, if you look at what's going on with respect to NATO, we have a very good relationship. 5% GDP, and they pay us. We send them military equipment, and they pay us back the full cost of the equipment.
Yeah. So who cares what NATO thinks, right? I saw someone in France was talking about taking action against the United States if President Trump takes Greenland. France, after everything we've done for France, and does France even really have an army anymore? What would they? And they have a long history of losing wars: World War I, World War II, and of course, Vietnam. They were in Vietnam before we were. France is talking all tough, but when it comes down to it, they always lose. Here's the president talking about Cuba.
What kind of deal are you looking for from Cuba?
You're going to find out pretty soon. We're talking to Cuba, and you'll find out pretty soon. And one of the things I want taken care of, and one of the groups I want taken care of, are the people that came from Cuba that were forced out or left under duress, and they're great citizens of the United States right now. You have a lot of people forced out of Cuba unfairly, so we're going to take care of, most importantly right now, we're going to take care of the people that came from Cuba that are American citizens or in our country.
Yeah, I love these Air Force One press conferences. Here he is. Here's the president again talking about Greenland.
We don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen. If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
They can offer you either like.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland. We don't.
One way or the other. Did you hear that? One way or the other, we're going to have Greenland. See?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
See? He's decided already. He's already decided. It's going to be ours. It's not even up for debate anymore. Now here's a reporter. They're asking President Trump if he thinks Iran takes his threats seriously. Now keep in mind we just, grabbed Maduro and liberated Venezuela.
Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do at this point? After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Exactly. He's so good. I love these press conferences with President Trump and the fake news media. And here he is again talking about Renee Good, Minneapolis.
Everyone's seen it. A woman who's very violent. She's a very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. Go or drive.
Absolute immunity. How would you define that?
Well, I'm going to let the people define it. But immunity, you know what immunity means as well as I do.
So that officer should be back on the
people
force?
Can't be treating law enforcement that way, whether it's ICE or Border Patrol or our police and men and women. You can't do that. We have the law enforcement in our country is doing really well, despite the fact that Sleepy Joe Biden allowed people to pour through an open border. Crime stats just came out. We have the best crime stats on record, despite all the criminals he allowed into our country. We've gotten a lot of them out. We have to respect our law enforcement. At a very minimum, that woman was very, very disrespectful to law enforcement. And you heard the same noises. You saw the same crunch that I saw. You can't do that with law enforcement, whether it's police or ICE or Border Patrol or anybody else.
Yeah, you guys agree with that? Absolutely. Absolutely. Here he is still talking about Renee Good and her wife and and what ICE is going up against in Minneapolis.
It was highly disrespectful of law enforcement. The woman and her friend were highly disrespectful of law enforcement. You saw that. They were harassing them, were following for days and for hours. And I think, frankly, they're professional agitators.
But just disrespect.
And I'd like to find out, and we are going to find out who's paying for it.
But just disrespect.
With their brand new signs and all the different things. But these are professional agitators, and law enforcement should not be in a position where they have to put up with this stuff. What that woman and what her friend and what their other friends were doing to law enforcement, not just ICE, law enforcement is outrageous.
Yeah, it is outrageous. Here he is also talking about ICE and what they're having to put up with.
Generally speaking, I mean, these people have been harassed. They're threatened every day.
Yeah, they have.
They had bands out playing so they couldn't sleep at the hotel. I see what they're doing to them. They're threatening them constantly. And all they're doing is doing what I got elected on.
That's right. He was elected on deportation, securing the border. He's doing it. They're carrying it out. And the left have decided that, for some reason, that they have a right to go in and intervene. And you know what? You don't. You know, make your case in court. The street in your car talking to a cop or a federal agent is not a courtroom. You don't sit out there and argue your case on the street. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And on my next stream, I'll be in the studio taking live calls, and I put a link and pinned it into the live chat to my main show for today. So if you click that link, when the show starts in, well, a couple of hours from now, I'll be in the studio taking live calls. There's a toll-free number, and you can call me live on the air and share your thoughts. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, all right? You know, and here, you know, the ICE agent involved, they're out to destroy this guy, you know, and there's a GoFundMe for him. It's really a sad thing. You know, the left are completely psychotic. They think that the criminals are the good guys and the police are the bad guys. Well, that's like Charles Manson-like thinking. That's complete insanity. Here's Ilhan Omar. Listen to this. Ilhan Omar talking about the fraud in Minnesota.
I'm so exhausted in trying to ask what any of this, information has led to you finding any criminals that you have indicted that explains why you are wasting so much of our taxpayer resources.
Now keep in mind, she's the head of the group of people, the Somali pirates of Minnesota, that have stolen, what, $19 billion worth of beef from the U.S. government.
And also terrorizing our communities in the amount of federal law enforcement agents that you have in the streets of our city and our state. There needs to be some sort of justification.
She said, Ilhan Omar says there needs to be some sort of justification. How about this? I've got 19 billion reasons to show justification. Okay, 19 billion. Now, this is amazing. This was from Real America's Voice and Just the News. Some Somalis got busted at an airport in Minnesota. Listen to this.
We're going to turn our attention back to the Somali fraud investigation. As we've discussed before, authorities have discovered suitcases containing hundreds of millions of dollars in a Minnesota airport. Now, in the meantime, Republicans are working to cut funding for Somali-led organizations with alleged ties to the massive fraud scandal. Now, as the FBI pushes forward with its own investigation, One key question arises. What does accountability even look like?
Yeah, and they got the photograph, $700,000 in cash in suitcases at the airport that they were trying to smuggle out, right? I think that's crazy. Crazy. And there may have been another attempt on the president yesterday. Okay, it's being reported by the Secret Service, you know, here locally, here in Florida, during advanced sweeps of Palm Beach International Airport. That's where Air Force One parks and lands and takes off when the president comes to Mar-a-Lago. During advanced sweeps of Palm Beach International Airport, a suspicious object was discovered by the United States Secret Service. A further investigation was warranted, and the presidential motorcade route was adjusted accordingly. This is from Caroline Levitt. So what the heck? Okay, the Daily Mail, Trump's motorcade rerouted after suspicious device discovered by Secret Service near Florida airport. And, you know, this is the second time in the last couple of months that there's been issues at the airport. Remember, they found that sniper's nest at the airport a couple months ago that's disappeared from the news. There's been no follow-up on that. President Donald Trump's motorcade had to be rerouted on Sunday after Secret Service agents discovered a suspicious device. Wow. White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt shared the news as the president made his way to Palm Beach International Airport. During advanced sweeps of Palm Beach International Airport, a suspicious object was discovered by the United States Secret Service, says Caroline Levitt. A further investigation was warranted, and the presidential motorcade route was adjusted accordingly. The motorcade then took an unusual route to the Palm Beach airport, making a circular route around town as police and motorcycles raced alongside. The press vans were so close together they almost crashed into each other during a slowdown to make a turn, braking hard to avoid a collision. The drivers of the press vans were instructed to keep it tight. So this was a real threat. Air Force One was then seen on the opposite side of the airport than it usually is located, and the lights outside the plane were off as the motorcade arrived. That's a big change. Air Force One was then seen on the opposite side of the airport than it usually is located, and the lights outside the plane were off as the motorcade arrived. The president boarded Air Force One to head back to Washington, telling reporters on the way that leaders of Iran are starting to cross red lines. And let's see if they got anything else about that. So a suspicious device found. Second time at the airport. And you know, during President Trump's first term, there were never these bizarre happenings at the airport that we're seeing now. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, everyone. But the reroute, I have never heard of them rerouting airport or the motorcade to the airport before. I've never heard of them doing that. And this is the second time with the sniper's nest they found. And now this. It's pretty scary. Pretty scary. That's awful. Now this was funny. So the CNN reporter asked Trump a stupid question on Air Force One last night.
Don't you think so, CNN? Don't you think so? Wouldn't you say that they probably do at this point?
They're talking about Iran.
After going through it for years with me, being hit, Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, the Iran nuclear threat wiped out, don't you think, and then you just had Venezuela, don't you think, she says, CNN, do you think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
That's it. That's another. Here's the president talking about NATO and Greenland.
You have Russian destroyers and submarines and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, then it affects NATO. But, you know, they need us much more than we need them, I will tell you that.
That's
now.
right. Yeah, we don't need NATO. What has NATO ever done for us? Right? What has NATO done for us, really? Not much. Take our money, mainly, right? That's about it. Take our money. That's all they do, because that's how they are. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe to my channel. But this suspicious device found on the president's route. This is unheard of. Now I saw this video. It's in Spanish. It's let me see if I can. But it's being translated. This is a soldier in Caracas, Venezuela, and he's in front of the planes, the U.S. planes, and he says, we're already receiving humanitarian aid from the United States. Isn't that something? Already receiving aid from the United States. It's happening now. That's awesome. It's awesome. Venezuela is back, and President Trump was talking that he said they're talking to Cuba. So there's something going on in Cuba, and because they're freaking out that they haven't been getting their Venezuelan oil for how long now? It's been really weeks, because we were stopping it before we even grabbed Maduro. We're so blessed to be living through this time of Trump. We really, truly are, no doubt about it. Now again, if you're new to my channel, make sure that you subscribe, okay? I pinned in the live chat a link to my main stream. That'll be a little bit later this morning when I'm in the studio taking live calls, and you're welcome to call me on the air, whether you agree or disagree, and talk about all these things. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Thanks for watching. I'll see you.